All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. If you are here for the Texas Strategic Staffing for Residency Grant webinar as part of LASO 4, you are in the right place. This is the first of two webinars overviewing this year's TSS grant, or I'm sorry, the 26-28 TSS grant. I am Corliss Bunkley. I am the residency implementation specialist for our team. And you know, Alyssa Reed is our director. If you have questions, you will send us an email at our Texas Strategic Staffing box, which is down there. So let's go over a few housekeeping items. We're going to do an overview of LASO Cycle 4, the application process and timeline, a Texas Strategic Staffing for Residency Grant deep dive, and talk about next steps. I will not be answering questions during the webinar, so if you will make sure to drop them in the Zoom Q&A, they will be sent out in an FAQ at a later date. Slides and recordings will be posted on the LASO 4 website after all of the webinars have been completed. And if you have questions about the application itself, please make sure that you email laso@tea.texas.gov for questions about the application. If you have questions about the program, you can email us at Texas strategicstaffing@tea.texas.gov. So, what is the LASO 4 grant? We know that LASO is something that has been done across the state for many years. We are in cycle 4, and it is a single consolidated application that combines grants, allotments, and in-kind supports. And they're bundled together to over a few key strategies and initiatives. This year, it will offer 15 opportunities focused on curriculum and instruction, educator training, more time, and innovative school models. There's over $500 million in estimated supports, and all of this is bundled into one application for ease of use. It'll be anchored in 4 different areas. Again, curriculum and instruction, focusing on rigorous high-quality instructional materials. Talent pipelines that support teachers, which is where strategic staffing comes in. More time for the students most in need, and then looking at innovative school models to incorporate all aspects of the learning acceleration framework. Our portfolio shows all of the allotments and grants available in LASO 4. And as you can see in this outlined orange box, the Texas Strategic Staffing for Residency grants goes directly to districts. We have an estimated total of $2.9 million to offer this year. It'll be a 2-year initiative like it has always been, up to $58,400, and we will give out up to 50 grants this year. So, why are we looking at Texas Strategic Staffing? So, the purpose of this grant is to offer in-kind technical assistance, like we have always done, to create a partnership between educator preparation programs and school systems that includes districts and open enrollment charter schools to make staffing and scheduling decisions that are driven by student need. It is a 2-year program that will support design and implementation of a paid year-long, high-quality, and sustainable teacher residency. The years this year are 26-27 for design and 27 and 28 for implementation. This grant will give partial funding for at least one school system staff member to oversee the program, and that includes the coordination between the school system, the technical assistance provider, and the EPP. So why do we need paid teacher residencies? Well, we know that although student enrollment declined for a bit after COVID, our teacher hiring increased. So even though we have less students, we are hiring more teachers. However, our attrition rate went up quite a bit after COVID, but we are again seeing a decline. Folks are coming back into the field and they're staying. The concern is as we hire new folks, and in last year we hired 49,200 new teachers in Texas, 55% of them are uncertified. So across our state, we hire 55% of our new teachers as uncertified, 24% alternatively certified, 18% traditional, and we are excited to see that 3% of those are residency candidates. And we know that that 3% comes from the work that has been done through TTRPR, but also in the previous year's Texas Strategic Staffing Grants. What impact does this have on students? We know that first year teachers who were paid residents were as effective as fifth year teachers in reading courses. I'll repeat that because that's impactful. If a teacher was a paid resident in their first year, they are just as effective as fifth year teachers. If all first year teachers had the same retention rate as paid residents, approximately 3,600 fewer first year teachers would have left Texas public schools between 2022 and 23 and 2023 and 24. If we look at the data on the left, we know that paid residents versus uncertified teachers, their students have a higher rate of achievement. And that is across all programs, including our traditional programs through LEAs or ESCs, out of state and university prep. So we know that our paid residents, the students of our paid residents, have greater achievement than those who go through more traditional programs and from out of state. So, what is Texas Strategic Staffing and how does it help? It allows school systems to leverage teacher residents to meet immediate instructional needs. So we currently have six models that we use, five of which are more compatible with what we do. Oh, excuse me. Oh, all right, sorry about that, y'all. With what we do with our strategic staffing. So we know that because of TTRPR, a couple of our models are not eligible to be used, or we'll have to do some tweaks with those with TTRPR and the hours requirement. But the majority of the models that we use will continue to be viable with the TTRPR requirements. We also use Texas strategic staffing to help school systems learn to reallocate and reinvest funds to sustain and scale paid teacher residencies. We want to make sure that not only are we funding them for a year, but we are able to fund them as we go forward in this process. So when we think of strategic staffing, we have to remember there's the residency model where we have a host teacher and a resident, another host teacher and a resident. But if we think about paying residents and reinvesting and reallocating funds, we are then able to use one of those residents not only as a resident in a classroom, but also partially as a substitute. And so that is just one of the models that we train districts on implementing. If you want to know more, please feel free to go to the TSS website and find out about the other models that we train districts on implementing. So what technical assistance comes with our TSS grants? The first year is design year. Our very well-trained TSS fellows walk through districts through setting goals, determining what type of model they want to use, what criteria and procedures they want to put in place. In the second year, they implement it. They work with the districts to get the ball rolling and then go out and visit and work on refining and reinforcing what they're doing. And then there's the sustainability piece. You will hear that over and over again. We want to make sure that, again, this is sustainable. With the prep residency allotment, the paid piece will be sustainable, but making sure that the procedures and parameters are in place is also a huge part of the sustainability. So, what does it look like? In the fall of 2026, you'll work on setting goals and models. In the winter of 2026, you'll look at the hiring process and planning. So, looking at job descriptions for host teachers and residents, what your hiring timeline looks like, and your selection and placement process. In the spring of 2027, you'll look at recruitment and placement, host teacher and resident recruitment, looking at applications and reviewing those and making selections, matching your host teachers and your residents, and then defining your communication structures. In the spring of 2027, it's summer training and implementation. So, making sure that your host teachers and residents are trained in what models you'll be using, what the expectations are, and then planning for your implementation year. In the implementation year, there are three important components. First, you have your site visits. There are two of those, one in the fall and one in the spring. Governance and implementation year team meetings, and those are four over the span of a school year. And then sustainability and scale meetings, because again, the goal is you start small and then you build. This is an overview of what that technical assistance looks like, some of the major activities, what the TA provider is doing during this process, and what our EPP is doing. And again, one of the things we want to reiterate is that with Texas strategic staffing, we look at the needs of each district and each partnership. So even if you've done strategic staffing, which I'm sure many of you have, as you get new partners, as requirements change, we want to reiterate that we tailor this to the needs of each of the district and EPP partnerships that we have. If you want to know more about strategic staffing and see the work that has already been done across the state, you can visit our TSS in Action page. We have 4 case studies that we have that William C., who used to be our manager of strategic staffing, worked hard to get filming done so that you can see the work that you all have done across the state. So let's talk about the grant specifics for LASO 4. You're going to see this slide multiple times throughout this presentation. To apply for the Texas Strategic Staffing for Residency Grant, applicants must also apply to the Prep Pre-Service Residency Program. So when you go into that application, you're going to have to apply for the Prep Residency Program in order to apply for TSS. So grant versus allotment. LASO generally has always had just grants. School systems are selected for funding based on a set of priority points or tiers. Allotments, like our LASO Prep program allotment, all school systems are selected for funding that meet eligibility criteria and commit to statutorily based requirements. So our grants, you have to go through this process. There are tiering. With our LASO program allotments, everybody is eligible as long as they meet the criteria and commit to the requirements. So how can TSS help support residency program allotment? So again, with the pre-service residency program, all eligible applicants that meet criteria and commit to requirements are funded. Texas Strategic Staffing, you have to go through the application process. Now, when we think about that, you're wondering, well, can we use this grant funding to help with prep pre-service residency? Not initially, but in the implementation year, you will learn how to reallocate and reinvest local funds to help with that cost matching. So this is an example, and if you attended the previous webinar on prep allotment, you saw this. So each district gets initial funding of $12,000. There is a $10,000 funding from TEA, and the school district has a $10,000 school system match. What Texas Strategic Staffing can help you do is learn to reallocate and reinvest funding to help meet the cost match requirement. So, although it is not a direct funding stream, you learn through this process how to find funding within local funds to fund your cost match. And then this goes into a little bit more of the base funding. So we know there will be success funding, and then EPPs will also receive funding after teacher candidates complete their first year. So who is eligible to apply for the TSS grant this coming year? First, you have to submit a LASO 4 application for the Preparing and Retaining Educators through Partnership Pre-Service Residency Program in addition to this application. You have to have a signed EPP verification form from each EPP partner with the State Board of Educator certification approved Texas Teacher Residency Preparation route. If you applied for the 2025 through 2027 TSS grant, you are very familiar with this form. You know that you have to find your EPP partner, have them certify that they are willing to enter into this partnership, and then we will go back and verify it before final awards are made. If you received the 2025-27 Texas Strategic Staffing Grant or the 2024-2025 Sustainable Residency Continuation Grant, you are not eligible to apply for this round of TSS grant funding. Some program assurances. The applicant will appoint a school system strategic staffing lead who will serve at least 20% of their time to oversee the Texas Strategic Staffing for Residencies grant. Some of those duties are developing clear companion guides, sharing data with the ESC technical assistance provider, and submitting data to TEA on grant implementation and outcomes. Sustainable funding is another assurance. The model will be sustainably funded by the school system's cost match requirement and prep allotment residency program funds by school year 28-29. And so traditionally, we have helped you work through finding the funding. We will still do that, but TSS funding won't directly be provided to fund resident stipends. You will need a model that includes sustainable cost matching, and that's where TSS will help you find funds to meet the cost match requirement of the prep residency pre-service allotment. School system and EPP partnership assurances. You will establish a partnership with at least one EPP that has been approved to offer the enhanced certificate. You must have a signed letter of commitment or MOU with the technical assistance provider and confirm their commitment to the strategic staffing process. You have to set shared goals with your EPP partner. You'll hold structured governance meetings at least quarterly. Work collaboratively with EPP partners to design a strategic staffing model and stipends. Make sure that you're adhering to all educator preparation requirements for residency based in TAC Chapter 228. And if possible, provide preferential hiring to teacher residents who complete their residency in your district and earn an enhanced certificate. The technical assistance assurances. You will work with your ESC technical assistance provider to make key decisions and design structures that continue after the end of technical assistance. That's where that sustainability piece comes in. Ensure that a designated team of leaders from the school system, campuses, and EPPs actively participate in the training that will begin in August of 2026. Attend with the EPP sustainability meetings with the technical assistance provider each year of the 27-28 school year. Now, many of you may be wondering, what does the time commitment look like? This is in the slide deck, but it is also on the LASO website so that you are familiar with what folks in your district will need to commit to in order to make this process. These are some of the key players that help make the planning and the implementation of Texas strategic staffing key to the sustainability piece. So, what are some application highlights? Again, to apply for the Texas Strategic Staffing for Residency Grant, applicants must also apply to the Prep Pre-Service Residency Program. Applications will be scored into 4 tiers. So our Tier 1 group will be up to 30 awards. What TEA will do is rank applicants in order from greatest to fewest number of new hires with no previous experience teaching using the data from the new hire dashboard. So as you know, every year TEA collects new hire information. We look at it by district and region, and so we will rank that. Then from the rankings, we will select the top 30 applicants that have not previously participated in Texas strategic staffing and are implementing 165 or more instructional days in their school system. In the case of a tie, all school systems in the tie will be fully funded, and the remaining applicants will move to the second tier of selection. Tier 2 will be up to 20 awards. Again, we will narrow the pool to those who have a new EPP partner for the 25-26 school year or the 26-27 school year and are implementing 165 or more instructional days. Now, these applicants in Tier 2 may have been previous TSS recipients, except for those who, according to eligibility requirements, are not eligible. So that is the folks who have received the 2025 through 2027 grant and the 24-25 sustainability grant. Once we have those applicants, we will rank them again based on new hire data. Again, if there is a tie, applicants will be fully funded if possible. If funding has been exhausted and is not possible to fund all applicants in the tie, TEA may split fund the ties or fund up only to 19 applicants. And you all know that we have had to do that in the past. The remaining applicants will move to the third tier of selection. In Tier 3, all remaining applicants will be in the third tier of selection. And those with a board of managers will be selected. All districts with a state-appointed board of managers or with at least 5 years of unacceptable accountability ratings, because we may not have the designation for board of managers in time to make the decision. Again, in case of a tie, all school systems will be funded fully if funding is available. Again, if it has been exhausted and we're not able to fund all applicants, we will split the funding or fund only up to the total amount available for the grant. The remaining applicants will then move into Tier 4. So all applicants who are remaining go into Tier 4. They will be awarded in order of greatest to fewest number of new hires with no previous teaching experience, regardless of their past participation in TSS programs, excluding the 2 grants I've already mentioned, or whether the school system has a new EPP partner. Again, in the case of a tie, we will fund if funding is available. We may have to split funding or fund only up to the total amount available for the grant. This grant will not require any type of interview. Our approved providers, all of our ESCs are approved to provide in-kind technical assistance for this grant. Every ESC has a trained TSS fellow who will walk you through this process. Our team will match school systems with the appropriate ESC and get you in contact with your TSS fellow and team. Please remember that we do have contract provider guidelines. We are required for equal treatment of all persons, and we are not able to provide based on biological sex, and we have to make our decisions reflective of federal and state laws. So what's next for you? First, make sure that if you need a refresher or have more questions, that you come to the other webinar on October 23rd. It will be the same information, but if you attend, you may hear something new. It is important, if you did not attend the Prep Residency Pre-Service Program webinar at 11 o'clock today, that you attend at 2 o'clock on October 20th, because again, it is a requirement that you apply for the Prep Pre-Service Program in order to apply for TSS. We also have our mentorship webinar and our GYO webinars coming up, so please make note of those so that you can attend. This is an overview. Remember, our application is going to close at 5 o'clock p.m. Central Time on December 3rd. So we are here where we're doing our program-specific webinars. We will have office hours, and I'll show you those times on our next slide. We will do our scoring and vetting between December 12th and January 22nd. Our anticipated announcement is February 2nd, and then this grant will then go through the e-grants process between February 3rd and March 5th, and we will start our NOGA process that many of you who have done this before are familiar with, so that we can get you NOGA'd and you can begin this work. Again, you must apply by December 3rd at 5 p.m. Superintendents have been sent the link. If they do not have it, please make sure that they complete the form so that they can be sent the link. A PDF is posted for you to take a look at, so that if you have any questions or you need to know who is supposed to be there to complete it, you can do that before you start your application. And applications must be signed by the superintendent. If you make changes to your application from the time you started up until 5 p.m. on December 3rd, the last application that you submit, the last copy, is what will be scored. So if you go in and you put information and somebody leaves in the district, or you need to make changes, you can resubmit it, but we will only accept the last application that is submitted. When are office hours? So on October 30th from 1 to 1:30, we will have office hours with the Texas Strategic Staffing Team. On October 27th and November 3rd, there will be application support webinar, or excuse me, office hours that will just be to talk about going through and filling out the application. Again, if you have questions, you can either drop them in the Q&A chat or email us at Texas Strategic Staffing. You will receive an auto reply that says we are in the grant period, and they will go in the FAQs just like all of our previous TSS grants. So LASO has an informal discretionary competitive grant process, which is what the TSS grant is. Declines and change requests are not advisable in the typical competitive process. If declines are requested, they will be considered on a case-by-case basis for the school systems and could raise the school system's federal grant risk level in the coming year. Again, this is an overview of our application window. The application opened on October 3rd. It closes at 5 p.m. Central Time on December 3rd. Our webinars will be going up until the 24th. Your next steps: please visit the LASO 4 website to familiarize yourself with all of the grant material. Please communicate and share the information with your school system internal teams so that you are sure that you have a successful application. Register for all of the upcoming webinars. And please take a moment to look at the resources available. There's some great one-pagers that give you a very brief overview of what each of the initiatives is about, an app document to help you prioritize what you should apply for, selection tools, and then the roles and responsibilities insight tools. That is the end of our webinar. I am excited to give you 29 minutes of your time back today. Again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to our Texas Strategic Staffing inbox, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.